In the spring of 1943, female workers at the Ellington Air Base were pulled aside for a personal meeting. After managers at the Ellington factory had begun to realize that the women were rolling up their shirt sleeves and pant legs, they were pulled aside for corporate dress code violations. At the time, the Women's Army Corps had strict guidelines and beliefs that women express themselves sexually with how they dress physically. In other words, the WAC pinpointed that the women who were rolling up their shirt sleeves and pant legs were, quote, a lesbian and mannish threat. Yeah. As men, we get up in the morning, pour a cup of coffee, catch the subway, and head to work. All the while, we are probably wearing a navy suit and stiff white shirt that we have seen our fathers and their fathers wear for decades prior. Yet for women, getting dressed in the morning is less straightforward. According to globally recognized feminist figure Elizabeth Cady Stanton, she points out that getting dressed for women in the morning is one of the most important choices in a woman's day. Likewise, Isabel Spearing, a pioneer for power dressing on Downing Street in London, says that if you learn to love the clothes that you feel good in, you can use it as armor. For many women, that armor is the pantsuit, a direct contrast to what the typical secretary uniform on Mad Men tells you is the status quo. Today, we are going to step inside the closet, look through the hangers, and examine early conflict with women's pant wearing, the use of the pantsuit as a motif for feminism in the mid-20th century, and the use of pantsuits in the political arena for women. We begin by looking at the early 20th century. The year is 1938. The average income for a man is $1,731. Hitler has just begun marching into Austria. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is released. And Frank Sinatra is booked into a New Jersey county jail for seduction and adultery. On the West Coast, however, Helen Hulick made headlines for her controversial prison sentencing. A sentencing for wearing pants on the witness stand. In direct contrast to the typical 1940s women's wear at the time of dresses, and in contrast to her judge's orders, Hulick came to court wearing slacks that day. Ordered as a disruption, Hulick was sentenced to 5 days in a county jail for defying the notions of what she should wear. The media dragged Helen Hulick through the mud and called her a radical for wanting to wear pants. At the time of the 1940s, employment for women rose from 10 million to 13.5 million. As men moved overseas to fight during World War II, the growing number of working women needed workwear to be functional. As such, they needed to wear pants. Cassidy Zachary, a fashion historian, points to this time period and says that pants were one of the most gendered garments in the 1940s. Further controversy of pant wearing and female dressing can also be seen in the 20th century through Coco Chanel's 1925 clothing line. In Chanel's 1925 line, she featured feminized waist suit jackets, shorter skirts, more masculine silhouettes, and the provocative use of the material tweed, an unconsidered choice for such an established haute couture line. Chanel wanted to encourage diversity in the feminine wardrobe and encourage everyday women to transition from more masculine silhouettes and masculine textiles. However, while women bought, critics scoffed. It was only 1925, and challenging gender norms at the time was no easy feat. Public outrage over Chanel's designs can also be articulated through Katharine Hepburn's 1949 cover of The Picture Goer. In this editorial piece, Katharine Hepburn was seen wearing a piece from Chanel, a whole pantsuit and Chanel slacks. The media dragged Katharine through the mud and called her and other women who were encouraged to wear pantsuits from Chanel and pinning them to radical social penalties. We began by looking at early controversy with pant wearing for women. Now we will examine the use of the pantsuit as a motif for feminism. At the dawn of the space age, as women began to transition their thoughts toward those of feminism, Yves Saint Laurent produced the first ever full-length pantsuit for women. YSL's designs featured a feminized suit jacket, feminized waist suit trousers, and yes, the implementation of pocketing for women. YSL's designs were not only functional for the growing number of working women during the time, but they echoed the sentiments of women, of feminism, and encouraged everyday women to transition from dresses to pant wearing. Further implementations of YSL's designs can also be seen through Diane Keaton's implementation of the pantsuit in the 1970s and Brooke Shields' My Calvin's movement in the 1980s that encouraged everyday women to transition from dresses to pant wearing at home, on the workplace, and on the ballot box. In 1987, Barbara Mikulski made headlines. At the time of the 1980s, Mikulski was one of the only few women in the U.S. Senate. At the time, the Senate had regulations on what women could wear in congressional chambers, that skirts had to be below the knee and only a pearl necklace was acceptable. Mikulski defied this notion completely. In 1987, she strutted onto the Senate floor wearing the most dashing and controversial outfit choices in U.S. political history, a pantsuit. Mikulski broke stereotypes for women and encouraged everyday female politicians to be more empowered in their dressing. I like pantsuits. I like that I can be the same but different and familiar to that of a man. Hillary Rodham Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign personified the power of the pantsuit by having the attention being shifted on what she was saying, not rather how the media liked or disliked her wardrobe. She was able to lead an effective campaign and be empowered and use the tools of political dressing. In the 2019 State of the Union address, political dressing could also be seen when dozens of congressional women came to the State of the Union address wearing monochromatic and white pantsuits, the color of the suffragettes. The Huffington Post points to this display as, quote, the sartorial DNA of power. These women encouraged themselves to wear empowered dressing and sent a message to viewers and their constituents that they were empowered in their political arena and that they were going to fight for equality in the male-dominated political arena. Influences for pantsuits can also be seen through social media influencers, such as Blake Lively, Lady Gaga, Cardi B, and Rihanna, who have begun to transition to pantsuit wearing on red carpets and in social media posts. Responding to backlash over her consistent use of the pantsuit, Lively responded via Instagram caption stating, "Would you notice a man wearing a pantsuit in a promo tour? Well, why would you notice me?" Lively and other celebrities have begun to influence everyday women in our modern society to dress in more powerful and impactful ways. Today, we discussed early controversy with pant wearing for women, the use of the pantsuit as a motif for feminism in the 1970s, and the use of the pantsuit in our everyday political arena. As you can see, the pantsuit is not just tapered fabric on a body. It is tailored armor, an icon in and of itself.